Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fate.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
Give it to you.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Childress.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastor.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal. Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
What's going on, everybody? We are live. It is the Saturday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark, and we have so much that we have to get into today. Kentucky beat North Carolina in a thriller. Kansas beat Indiana after trailing by 13 points on the road in Assembly Hall. Michigan State smacked Baylor, and I'm talking smacked. Creighton beat Alabama in a thriller. Houston beat A&M after being up by 21 points in the second half thanks to Wade Taylor going absolutely nuts. Memphis beat Clemson. Ohio State beat UCLA. Texas beat LSU. FAU beat St. Bonaventure. UMass blew a 20-point lead and then found a way to beat West Virginia. NC State is playing Tennessee right now. We got Arizona TCU on the TV as well. But guys, we got to talk about the biggest game of the day first. Northwestern and DePaul faced off for legitimacy and presidency in the city of Chicago. That's where we're starting, right? That's where we're starting the show.
Yeah, right. I don't know where you start.
My name is Rob
I don't even know who won that game. That's how irrelevant that game was today and every day because it doesn't matter.
Goodman, I'll tell you this. DePaul played. Who do you think won?
I would say Northwestern won. I would say yes.
Yes. You know you got it right. Listen, my name is Rob Dauster. I got Randolph Childress with me. I got Jeff Goodman with me. We are going to start things off with the game between who I think at this point in the season are probably the two best teams in college basketball. Number 3, Purdue beat number 1 Arizona 92-84 in Indianapolis, a game that our Jeff Goodman was there to see. Braden Smith had 26 points. Fletcher Loyer had 27 points. Zach Edey had a career high 5 assists, and it was one of the more dominating offensive performances for about the first 30 minutes I've seen in a long time in college basketball. Arizona made a run. They went to zone, but it was not enough. Goodman, what are your major takeaways from Purdue's win over Arizona?
All right, so I'm ready to say it. I'm ready to say that Braden Smith is in the conversation for best point guard in the country. I wouldn't put him ahead of Tyler Kolek, but I'm just saying, like, he's moved himself into the convo right now because kind of like Kolek, he does everything. He's an elite shooter right now. In case you haven't looked, like he's shooting like 46% from 3. He makes people better. He's playing with confidence and swagger that he wasn't playing with last year. Remember, this is a kid who, going into his freshman year, was recovering from 2 Jones fractures and didn't play, didn't practice, didn't do anything until September of a year ago. He was their only ball handler as a freshman. There was way too much on his plate. They were still an elite team. But again, he didn't play well against FDU. He was one of the reasons that they lost in that game. It was embarrassing. He has come back with an absolute vengeance and been that kind of Robin that they need, right? I mean, obviously they got Batman with Zach Edey, but they needed a Robin, and Braden Smith wasn't quite that last year. He is that now, period.
Randolph?
He's good, but Jeff is jet lagged, man. Don't hold him, accountable for his words right now. He's tired. He needs to shut it down a little bit. We'll get him to bed a little early tonight. I can't give him that. Best point guard in the country. No, he's good. He's been damn good, and he's good. But I won't. I'm not ready to give him that. There's a few other guys on that list I think have been consistently playing at a higher level. We talk about Kolek. There's so many guys throughout the country. I think R.J. Davis belongs in that. The guy that we didn't talk about early in the year has been playing at a high level. There's too many other guards. I think before I do that, but he is. I think he deserves more respect than he's been given from a national perspective. I'd say that.
Let me ask you like this, RC. I don't think whether or not he is the best point guard in the country necessarily matters for what Purdue wants to be able to accomplish this season, right? I think what matters is, do you think he's good enough where he can put up a performance. It doesn't have to be he doesn't have to get 26 like he did tonight. He doesn't have to get 27 like he did against Alabama. But is he good enough to be able to play at a level where we're not going to see an FDU situation, where we're not going to have questions about where else they can get offense? Like, because to me, the headline coming out of this game was we finally saw what Purdue can be when Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith are both great. They had 53 points combined, 20 for 33 from the floor, 9 for 16 from three. Right? Are they good enough? Is that good enough for this team to be able to, get out of the first weekend, get out of the first round of the NCAA tournament? I got all the jokes today, guys. I got all the jokes.
I thought they answered that in Maui, to be honest. I don't think there's any question of that. I think the one thing that you saw in this matchup, 1 versus 2, was I thought the physicality and the athleticism of the guards, we wondered how they do that. And let's be honest, they won the matchup. So if you had concerns or question marks about that, then you got to scrap that, because we knew the Arizona guards were big, physical, and athletic, and they get after you defensively. And they had no problem with that at all. Now, we know where it starts with Zach Edey, but the backcourt of Purdue was the better backcourt today overall.
Mm-hmm. No, he's right. He's right. I mean, that was the biggest question coming in, right? Like, how is Purdue's guards? How are they going to be able to handle it? Because Fletcher Loyer it looks about a half of the width of Rob Dauster. And he stood up pretty well today, right? He stood up pretty well. Both ends of the court, by the way.
Yes.
Both ends of the court. He was really good defensively. Like Purdue, again, they still gave up 84 to Arizona, but Arizona's a pretty damn good offensive team. Caleb Love was terrific. He kept Arizona in this game. But ultimately, again, those two guards were dominant, especially in the first 20. And then when it came down to it and in the second half, what did they do? They fed the big man, and then it's like pick your poison. Like, what do you do if you don't double him? Like poor Umar Ballo, like 1-on-1, he had no chance. Zero. Nobody does in the country. So then when you double him, if Loyer's playing well, and I talked to Loyer after the game, we'll hear from him in a little bit. But one of the things he said is like, I know I need to be more consistent, but if teams try to press up on me, what it does is if I'm not having a big game, it opens it up for those other guys even more. Yeah,
I thought another really important stat that came out of this game was that Zach Edey finished with a career high 5 assists. And it feels like RC, that's kind of, he adds something every year. And I feel like he's a little bit more mobile. He's a little bit better defensively. Like you can see the development with him every single season. And I feel like he's seeing the floor a little bit better and understands like where those traps are coming from. Because I want to say there were like 3 or 4 times in this game where Arizona tried to trap the post from the strong side. And he was able to just kind of like, whoop, flip it right back out there. I think they got 2 or 3 threes out of that.
I mean, obviously, besides his sheer size advantage, he's just seeing where the double team's coming from. There's nothing now you can do to him that he hadn't seen already. I mean, he's going to see where you're either going to come baseline, you're coming from the elbow, or you're coming strong side. He's picking your apart either way because they do a good job of diving guys to the rim. They put so much pressure on the rim, and he's going to see over top of it. So doubling him, I mean, it's kind of counterproductive because they're going to get an even better look. You're just going to have to pick your poison and say, we're going to give an open jump shot or take a death by 1,000 cuts and let him just punish you in the paint. Yeah,
so the KenPom is still really noisy right now, right? There's still a lot of other things going on with some of the numbers on there. But noisy. I do think it's worth pointing this out.
KenPom is noisy, RC. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's noisy. You know what? You don't understand. That means
I
that
do. I know what you're trying to say. Yeah. A lot's going on. There's other games. It's
no.
Around.
It just means that the
numbers are moving, RC.
No, it means that there's not necessarily like the best way to identify some of the stuff. It's like plus minus. There's a lot going on that impacts the way that those numbers look at this point in time. But Purdue is sitting here right now with a win over number 4 Arizona, a win over number 9 Alabama, a win over number 6 Marquette, a win over number 7 Tennessee, a win over number 18 Gonzaga, a win over number 43 Xavier, and a win over number 52 Iowa. I don't think there's anybody in college basketball that has a resume that is anywhere near as good as what Purdue has put together. I know they lost on the road. I know they lost to Northwestern. I know Boo Buie lit them up. A lot of teams are going to get Boo Buie this year, but you're going to have a very hard time convincing me that when Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer are capable of doing what they did tonight against a team that we all thought was one of the best defensive teams in the sport, like What do you do, Jeff? How do you stop them? What do you do? Like, where's the weakness in this group?
Well, I mean, again, here's the one thing I'll say is like Arizona did play him. It's 15 a couple times, but like they played him pretty close. They got back in this thing in a crowd that was like almost 90% Purdue. It was a Purdue home game. So again, Purdue's been very good. They've got by far the best resume. They're the number one team in the country right now. But I thought Arizona showed a lot when Kai Boswell did not play well at all tonight, right? Completely outmatched, as we kind of talked about there. Arizona Pella Larson wasn't great tonight. And they were able to kind of fight almost till the end where it was, they put some game pressure on him towards the end there. So, I think Purdue's the best team, but I think there are some other teams that, again, have a chance against them. But, what do you do with Zach Edey? There's not much you can do with Zach Edey. He's going to get his 25 and 10 every night.
Yeah. RC?
No, I don't have much to add with that. I mean, it was hell of a performance. I'd say it would have been shocking or concerning had Arizona not played the zone, because the zone surprisingly gave us some trouble. And if they didn't use the zone to get back in the game, I mean, then this could have been bad. But I don't think any less of Arizona equally. I thought they still were efficient from the floor. They just had lapses in the game as well. I mean, they shot the ball well, but the efficiency which Purdue scored against a team that we thought guard-wise was the kryptonite to this Purdue team and had size to throw bodies and fouls at Zach Edey. This was the matchup we were talking about, and let's be honest. I mean, for the majority of this game, Purdue was the better team.
Yeah, so I actually want to ask you about that, RC, because my takeaway from this was that Arizona was kind of outgunned, right? Like the only reason that they were able to get back into this game was they threw that it was like a 2-3/3-2 kind of a matchup zone, right? And I went back and I looked. I checked Synergy. They had 572. Arizona did 572 defensive possessions coming into today. They had exactly 0 possessions that they played in zone heading into today. So my question is that something where that's just part of coaching? Is you got to sometimes throw a curveball out there? I know like Bill Self is famous for throwing random triangle and twos or box and ones out there. Or is this something that we should be a little bit concerned about, that the only reason that this was something that was close at the end was because they had to throw a junk defense out there? I'm a little, I don't really know how to feel about that.
Listen, you got to do something different. I mean, you had to. I mean, guard, you can't game plan or script. Or there's no scout players walking around to help you, play like Zach Edey. I mean, this is a damn good team. Two best teams in the country went at it today. This was probably Purdue at its best. I don't know if Purdue could have played better, and that's just the best way to describe it. So we know this. I don't think that's a debate. If Purdue's on their game and they're at their best, it's over. Nobody's beating them. I think we can say that. We saw them at their best against the number one team, and that's it. So it's not an indictment against Arizona. You went in and essentially a road game, like Jeff said. They were efficient offensively. It was just a credit to Purdue. We talked about it. We just thought the bodies that they would throw at Zach and the guards, the athleticism, the physicality of their guards, we thought would be the difference. And no, it was Purdue's backcourt that outplayed Arizona's backcourt today. Simple as plain.
Yep. It helps that they had Lance Jones too. It helps also. Not that Lance Jones, like, he scares the hell out of me sometimes on the offensive end because he's never met a shot he doesn't like. But defensively, what he can give you, and just that toughness, right? That big, strong, physical guard that can match up against some of those guys for Arizona on the defensive end. I think that's the big thing that they needed with a guy like Lance Jones.
Yep. All right. RC, you mentioned that Purdue is the best team in college basketball when they play like this. Their best player of the night, Fletcher Loyer, finished with 27 points, 3 assists, 4 steals, and had 16 points in the first half as Purdue jumped out to that early lead. Our Jeff Goodman was able to catch up with Fletcher after the win in Indianapolis.
All right, Fletcher, huge win tonight. Arizona, kind of at home, right? We can call it a home game pretty much, right? You and Braden got off to such a good start tonight, and What was the biggest key for UConn getting going early like you did?
I think just realizing that I think I missed my first shot. He might have missed his too, but just realizing we're going to be focal points to win this game, and they need us. They got great guards. They got guards that can defend and score with them over there in Arizona. But we just knew we had to compete, and if we were going to win, our guards had to play better than their guards, and we knew Zach had to dominate, and he did that. And I think me and Braden just kept competing, kept pushing each other, and just focused on winning the game.
What was the offseason like from you? Because I think a lot of people were taking shots at you and Braden a little bit, right? Yeah. Young freshman guards, you kind of, everybody talks about Zach was the player of the year. How hard was it for you?
I mean, it's tough. It's something you got to deal with, but ultimately you know what you've worked for. You know the work that the coaches and staff and other players put in. And if they believe in you, we're going to believe in ourselves. So I think just us pushing it to the side, people can keep saying it, but we're just going to keep winning. We're going to keep proving it. We're going to go to Hawaii. We're going to go to Portland. We're going to win big tournaments. We're going to beat good teams, and we're going to keep being number one in the country. I think us just proving it, and us whether we won tonight and had 25-plus points or whether we lost and had 12, we're going to go doing the same work next week and get ready for Thursday.
How much fun is it playing with a big guy now? Because, again, let's face it makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah. It for sure makes my life easier. I get some easy looks where teams usually could probably just key in on me, but he's just so dominant and such a force down there. You got to apply pressure, and like Coach said, just throw it to him. And unless they have two guys on him, that's perfect for us. Then we're 3-on-4 on the other end. But really just his awareness and Zach's just big body of his. It's easy to throw it to him. He's got good hands, so it's very easy to do that.
All right, I want to know, what do you want for Christmas? What's the Christmas present you're asking for now?
I don't know. I haven't really asked for much. I'll just say some new clothes or something.
New clothes? Look at me. Yeah. Don't I look good?
It does. I like that.
Right? Can you tell Cam Jones, who's our new fashion correspondent, that I've stepped it up?
Cam Jones, he's upped his game a little bit.
Thank you. It's about time somebody noticed. All right, listen, congrats. Hell of a game.
Thank you.
You have not upped your game. You're wearing a Waffle House t-shirt right now, so let's just get that out of the way. Before we move on to the rest of the college basketball Saturday, I do just want to ask both of you guys. Like, I think that what Tommy Lloyd did in the transfer portal over the offseason is something that has gone really, really underrated. Robbie Hummel mentioned it on the broadcast today. Keshad Johnson ranked on ESPN as the 84th best transfer in the college basketball heading in. 84. There are 83 guys that Jeff Borzello says is better than Keshad Johnson right now, Jeff Goodman. And look at what, like, he had 24 tonight, right? Caleb Love had 29 tonight. I think that Tommy's ability to stay with the style that he wants to play while changing the makeup of his roster in the process is something that we're like, I don't think that we're giving enough credit to his ability to kind of flip this thing without actually having to take a step back. You know what I mean?
Well, Keshad isn't just a defensive player. Like, that's the difference. He looks slimmer. He's confident. I think RC could probably talk to this very well. Like, a lot of it is the confidence that coach gives you, right? Like, that's a big part of it. I was talking, we'll get to this game later, but Kevin McCullough, played at Texas Tech. Then he goes to Kansas, and he's shooting it very, very well this year. And I asked him that last night, and he said, listen, it's Coach Self. Like, he's giving me that confidence and yelling at me when I'm not taking – that wasn't the case at Texas Tech. So I think for Keshad Johnson, that's part of it for him right now. He's playing in a system where, honestly, there's so much freedom to be able to take those shots. And if you start to make a couple, you start to feel a little bit better about yourself. You're watching other guys take them too. You're not feeling as guilt, and you're winning. You're winning. That helps as well.
He's needed because he brings a level of toughness and athleticism to this group. Yeah. And on the offensive end, he's just asking these guys to dial. Hey, I need you to do this because that's part of the identity that's what separates this Arizona team from the teams in the past. There's a toughness and a physicality about this from backcourt, front court that they hadn't had in years past. And so now he does that. It's like offensively, hey, ball moves, whoever gets the shot gets the shot. Just go and play. Long as you compete defensively, he's giving these guys free reign on the offensive end. They're efficient. And tonight, we're talking about this game as if, again, they were as good as Purdue was offensively, hell, they scored 84 points themselves and was pretty efficient with the ball themselves. But I think they'll be right there in the round. I don't think any less of them than before. They just caught a Purdue team at their best. I think Arizona has another level that they can get to as well.
All right, last thing on this game before we move on, and I have to ask it because I'm a pot stirrer, and it's going to make every single person mad at me. Both of these teams lost in the first round of the tournament last year. Who is more likely to lose in the first round this year? Jeff Goodman.
Shit. I can't win either way on this one, can I?
No, you cannot.
There's no way Purdue loses in the first round this year. That's what I'll say. I think, honestly, there's and I watched Virginia against Gardner-Webb the year after they lost, obviously, to UMBC. I was there, and they were kind of fighting that first half a little bit. I don't think there's any chance in hell this Purdue team loses in the first round. I don't think Arizona does either, but I would say Arizona has a greater chance, which I don't think is going to happen, than Purdue.
No way in hell either one of these teams lose in the first round.
You got to pick one. You have to pick one.
If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick Arizona. But no, I'll take that. If I got to pick one, I'll pick Purdue. Only because I can't see it, but I say Purdue only because I think, again, if I got a center that can make threes, I can force Zach Edey to come out on the floor. That's it.
It's fair.
Yeah, I would say Purdue only because I think that the narrative of the number one that just lost could be something that can get in your head and it would be a mental thing. But I feel very comfortable saying
Painter has come out publicly and he's told me that. He's like, I know how tight we're going to be next year. I get it. And, that's real. That's real going to those games with those guys.
Yeah, I would be absolutely shocked if either of these teams, it would be the most surprising thing I think that I've seen in a decade of doing this, if either of these teams lost in the first round. All right, I want to stay in the state of Indiana for this next game because Arizona came into today ranked number 1 in the country. Purdue came into today ranked number 3 in the country. The team that was ranked number 2 trailed by 13 points in the second half in the building of Purdue's biggest rival. That would be Assembly Hall. That would be the Indiana Hoosiers. They found a way, the Kansas Jayhawks found a way to come back from 13 down behind 21 points from Kevin. He can't shoot, according to Jeff Goodman McCullough, and 17 points and 14 rebounds from Hunter Dickinson. Here's the big question I have about McCullough and DeJuan Harris. And I think we talked about this after the Champions Classic, and I think it's something that all of us kind of agree on, right? Is that the Achilles heel for Kansas is going to be perimeter shooting and floor spacing. And one thing that we've seen consistently this year and over the course of the last 2 years with DeJuan Harris specifically is that when McCullough and Harris are asked and left open, they make the majority of the big shots. In the moments where you're just sitting there, and there's no way for me to actually have data on this, but it feels like in the moments when you're sitting there and you're watching them on TV and you say, ooh, that's a big one. Kansas needs that. When it's McCullough or Harris shooting, I swear they made every single one. They've never missed one where I'm sitting and thinking, yeah, that's a really big shot. Kansas really needs that shot. So, Goodman, my question to you is, at what point do we kind of say, maybe these guys aren't ever going to be elite shooters, but maybe they're just kind of good enough to get the job done? I think that's where I'm at now with both McCullough and DeJuan Harris. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I'm not there with DeJuan Harris because he just doesn't want to shoot like McCullough does. McCullough's made a bunch this year. He's been consistent in the fact that he's had the confidence and he isn't reluctant to shoot. DeJuan Harris, even today, okay, they opened the game and DeJuan Harris is matched up against a 160-pound freshman guard. And he does not take advantage of that matchup with Gabe Cupps at all. At all. At all. And I'm looking, I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, Bill Self to me at some point should be grabbing him and be like, come on, man. You're the senior here. You've got to force the issue here, whether it's shooting threes or getting the basket and trying to overpower this kid. I know that's not Harris's game, but I just feel like he's in his comfort zone too much and it's not good for the team because ultimately that's what's going to hinder the team from going deep in the NCAA tournament. One of those games where he takes 2 shots, McCullough doesn't make threes. Hunter isn't making threes. I mean, they don't – it's not even that they don't make threes, Rob. It's that they don't have guys that can make plays off the bounce. They don't have that really even. They don't have scores. They don't have guys that want the ball and want to score it. Hunter does, but Hunter wasn't great today, especially in the first half. He was great down the stretch when they needed him. It was almost like they flipped the switch, and they went in the last huddle at the 4-minute timeout, and they were like, all right, guys, let's stop fucking around here. Let's just beat these guys. We're better. We know we're better. Let's just end this shit now.
You almost answered your own question to me, Jeff, on that, because I think that's part of the problem with DeJuan. I think he has to do so much on the other end of the floor. I think he defends at a high level. He had a hell of a play in the game once when I think that was Ware going in for that uncontested layup, and he chased it down and knocked it off of Ware. And it was a late when they was doing the run. It was a hell of a play. To your point, he is the main guy. He has to create for himself, and he has to create for everyone else. I think he has as much responsibility with that team as anybody, and he's not the biggest guy, and I think he can wear down sometimes. So I think he picks and chooses his moments, but I don't know if you can go into a game and expect him to be such a focal point offensively, because he has so much responsibility of creating for other people and defending that I think he does. I think it's a smart thing to do with him. It's just he picks his moment and figures out when a game, all right, these guys need me to score. And if you leave me open, I'll take it. But I don't think he can go into a game with this group looking to be really aggressive offensively, because I think the other guys need him to score.
Yeah, I feel like they've done enough in the moments where they need to actually do something to have us just not – I'm at the point where I'm just not going to question them, right? Okay, maybe he needs to shoot a little more. Maybe he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe if you're defending them in the first 30 minutes, what you do is you just don't guard him because you know he's gonna save and pick his moments at the right spot. But I'm just my concern right now where we stand with Kansas is figuring out what they're going to do for like who's going to step up. Marco Jackson, Johnny Furphy, Jamari McDowell, Nick Timberlake. Like they need one of those guys to step up and be more than like just a guy, right? To me, that's kind of the key to them being able to win a national title and being able to win 6 games. I'm just done questioning DeJuan. Like that dude's just a gamer. You know, he doesn't make bad decisions. He doesn't do the wrong thing. He doesn't make the wrong play. He's going to lock you up. And he made a huge 3 tonight. Kevin McCullough made a huge 3 tonight. McCullough made 3 huge threes against UConn.
But with the complexion of this team, I think sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, like, all right, my team needs me to do a little bit more, be a little bit more selfish here. And in turn, it's going to help some of those other guys. You understand what I'm saying? Like being more selfish for DeJuan Harris is going to open it up for the other guys. But I think he's so built to make people better, and that's his way of doing it, and that's how he has always done it. But again, I don't know. I think they're a flawed team in some ways, and I've said this on the record, and I will say it again. As great of a coach as Bill Self is, as great of a player as Hunter Dickinson is, as great of a point guard as DeJuan Harris is, as great of an improved player as Kevin McCullough is, I do not think this team can win 6 straight games in the NCAA tournament.
I don't think they got enough shooting, so I don't disagree with that unless one of these guys from the bench steps up and consistently gives them perimeter shooting. But I just can't put anything past them because they tough as hell, and these guys just step up and make shots. And again, the problem is it can't just be DeJuan because he can't come out of the game, and you're asking him to do so much. But everybody else just steps up. These guys just figure it out, man. I just can't count out. I'll never count out a Bill Self team. They're flawed because they don't shoot it. They don't have enough shooting. But
you know what it is? They got a bunch of dudes that are just gamers and winners. Like that's what it is. Like just the guys that they're just winners that'll figure it out, and they got a coach that is a winner that figures it out. Right?
Again, I love it. Like saw him last
night.
No,
but here's the thing, Jeff. Like I'm not even disagreeing with your take. Right? I think that you're right. I don't think the logic is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just kind of at the point where it's like all of everything that you're saying is right. But like, fuck it. This team just figures it out. Like, why? Yeah. I'm done doubting it, man. I'm done.
It looked like they came out of the last time out and said, like, all right, man, look, They think they can win. We know we're going to win this shit. Like, that's literally that's what it looked like. When they came out of the last time out, it was like, all right, man, stop playing. We got this.
All right, look, I'll tell you guys one other thing. One, I think Kevin McCullough should be very much in like the All-American conversation at this point. That dude has been so good this year. And two, I think KJ Adams might be my favorite player in college basketball. Just like the fact that he can't really shoot it, but he finishes everything around the basket. The fact that he's never gotten a defensive rebound, the intensity that he plays with, like the short shorts, and the fact that he's out there and he looks like a bodybuilder that has spent more time doing bench presses than he has working on his free throws. Like I love watching that kid play. And I think that he's the perfect glue guy for any team in college basketball. I just love watching him. He's awesome.
It's this Kansas team kind of, I walked away from saying last night, even before today's game, saying this might be the lowest maintenance group that Bill Self's ever had, right? They're like too nice off the court, but they are tough on the court. And they're also probably the worst shooting team, he's probably ever had collectively, right? I mean, they just, 100 Dickinson is your best shooter, and he is. And I just don't know if they're going to ever get Timberlake there again. Like, his confidence looks shot. Johnny Furphy's going to be a good player, but I don't think he's an elite shooter, even if he starts making a little bit more. And he's so thin. He's just not physically. You watch him in person, he is, again, like really, really thin, half a Dauster again. That's how I try to, give the terminology.
Goodman, think about this alternate reality. Think about the alternate reality of Cam Spencer being on Kansas and Nick Timberlake being on UConn. How different would the conversations around both those teams be if that had been something that had ended up happening? All right. I do want to touch on Indiana real quick. We know it is your adopted team, Goodman. It's not technically your alma mater, but it might as well be your alma mater. You've probably spent more time on campus at Indiana than you did in the 5.5 years that it took you to graduate from Arizona. Trey Galloway was awesome. Mackenzie Mbako, I think, played the best game that he's played since he's been at Indiana. But the one thing that here's the thing that I couldn't get over is the way that Bill Self defended them is he put Hunter Dickinson on Malik Renault, and he put whoever was at the 4 on Khalil Ware and just said, yeah, you know what? You want to throw the ball into Khalil Ware? Go ahead, because he ain't going to do anything. So that to me was just kind of like, that's going to be something I can't get over the entire season. I don't know how it works with those two. Where do you stand on this Indiana team after the performance they had tonight?
I mean, listen, they played well. They were right there. I thought Kansas, again, played like its C game. But this was a major missed opportunity for Indiana, because you get this one, there's your resume win if it's close at the end of the year, right? If it's close, that's the one that gets you over the top. Gets you not only in the tournament. That's a win that takes you, if you don't get it, right, to where your first 4 out or next 4 out to like a 10 seed. It's that big of a difference because, again, Kansas is going to be probably a number 1, maybe a number 2 seed at worst at the end of the day. I still look at it as, they defended today, but I just don't love it when they have those 3 bigs out there together. And Gabe Cupps, again, he did a nice job today. He did a very nice job, but they need Xavier Johnson back, and they need a healthy Xavier Johnson. I'm not even sure what a healthy Xavier Johnson brings anymore, because it wasn't like he was great when he was healthy to start the season. Remember, this was a team that was barely squeaking by the Armies, the Florida Gulf Coast, the Louisvilles of the world. This was the best game they played, and I think a lot of it was because Galloway was great, and Mackenzie Mbako was really, really good in both ends for the first 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah. RC, anything to add?
No, the team got better actually when Xavier went out, but I do think his experience, and he's had his moments, man. I think they need him if they want to take another step. They have to get him back, because his ability to probably get easier baskets, similar to what we talked about with DeJuan Harris. He does have elite speed. He can go baseline to baseline with anybody. Shooting has never been his strong point, but they just need another guy.
Yeah. Shout out to Indiana for making 6 threes today. They almost beat Kansas. They made 6 threes. Someone send that to Mike Woodson. Maybe threes help. Maybe that's something that matters in college basketball these days. Listen, we are going to get into this Kentucky and North Carolina game next. But before we do, a quick message from our sponsors. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today. Welcome back to the Saturday evening edition of the Field at 68 After Dark. Our producer Trevor is he's in his bag right now, guys. He is feeling as good as RJ Davis was in the second half of that Kentucky North Carolina game. Kentucky won 87-83. They had a stretch late in the game where there were four freshmen on the floor with Trey Mitchell. I was impressed with what Kentucky did defensively. I was impressed with what their freshmen did. I was impressed with DJ Wagner. I was impressed with Reece Shepard. I was impressed, RC, when they blew what was a 16-point lead and allowed North Carolina to come all the way back and take the lead, and then immediately, in the span of about 75 seconds, go on a 6-0 spurt to get control of the game again. It was never in doubt, really, in my mind after that. I thought that was a very, very, very impressive win from Kentucky.
I agree with you because I thought their guys made all the necessary plays down the stretch, in this game. I mean, Carolina, give them credit. They came back and tried to claw back in it, but these freshmen are damn good that Kentucky have. I think Dillingham is special. I think he got a gear that not a lot of guards has. And I think he can get by anybody whenever he wants. And if he's making threes or making jumpers, then you can't guard him. It's good to see Bradshaw out there, to getting out there. And I thought he competed on the defensive end. He was, from a physical standpoint, he competed his tail off against Bacot in there. And we'll get into that with him because I don't know what was going on with him. Some of that, give him credit. He fought his tail off. His numbers weren't great. He still got double figures. But the Kentucky guards, man, I was just really, really impressed with them.
Goodman, my biggest takeaway from this for the Kentucky side was Antonio Reeves didn't play well. He was 2 for 9 from the floor. He didn't make a shot from the field until deep into the second half. And we talked, we all kind of voiced our concerns about Cal deciding that he has all of these 7-footers back. We need to start playing 2 bigs. But it looked like the best lineup Kentucky had is probably the one with Trey Mitchell and Aaron Bradshaw out there. In an era where all of these teams are getting older and everyone's hitting the transfer portal and everyone's trying to make sure they get these 23, 24, 25, 26, 27-year-olds sometimes, Kentucky's out here winning close games with 18 and 19-year-olds making the big plays down the stretch. Like, it's not something that I would expect to happen. It seems it's very counterintuitive for the era that we're in college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't expect this. I mean, again, they're going to have their ups and downs. We've already seen those ups and downs, right? I mean, they barely beat St. Joe. St. Joe's a good team. Barely beat them. They lose to Wilmington. Now they come back. They win this one. They play Kansas tough early in the season. Yeah, they're going to be, and we've talked about this, they're going to be up and down for a lot of the season. The question is going to be, can they get enough consistency, and can Cal kind of figure out his rotation a little bit and the way he wants to play with these guys before the NCAA tournament? Because ultimately, listen, guys, here's the deal. Ultimately, Kentucky can do whatever the hell it wants in the regular season, okay? They can be a 1 seed, they go undefeated. Doesn't matter. Or they can be a 9 seed and finish 5th in the SEC. They haven't had success in the NCAA tournament in a long time for Kentucky, right? Been like 3 or 4 years since they've gotten out of the first weekend now. So ultimately, their fate is going to be on that. So they've got to be ready for the NCAA tournament. And again, getting these guys where they're a little bit more consistent. Dillingham is special, man. Listen, I always said that. Like, I love Dillingham. The guy that I always thought was a little bit overrated was DJ Wagner. I didn't see a ton of the game today, obviously coming back from the Purdue game. My biggest question, RC, and you alluded to it before, was like, what the hell happened with Armando Bacot? What the hell happened? What has happened with him this year? Because he's having a lot of trouble scoring this year, and that wasn't the case so much, certainly 2 years ago, and even last year. Like, he's still rebounding at a pretty good level, but 9 points, he was 3 for 4 from the field tonight, 6 rebounds. I know he was in foul trouble, but what the hell happened?
6 turnovers as well.
Yeah. He had one shot, was it well into the second half? I mean, midway through the second half, he only had one field goal. And they're not playing through him. And he gets frustrated. I thought he looked frustrated a couple of times when he didn't get it. Now, to his credit, he's playing. I think Hubert just got the ball moving and playing. I don't know if he's just – obviously they're not prioritizing him and just pounding the ball inside. But to be fair, I don't know if Armando's ever been that guy. I think you got to give him some touches. He's been a guy that just cleaned up the glass, and when guards attack the rim, you just didn't want to switch. And I think that's what's happened. I mean, people are so afraid of that. They're taking away one of the things that he did a great job of. It's almost like the Zach Edey effect. When a guard's drive, you don't want to help because you know if your center isn't on Armando, you're not getting a rebound. And that's just a big part of what they were doing. So teams just seem to be trying to take that away from him and enforcing him to be a low post scorer. And that's not always been his strength. He hasn't been his strongest suit, but he just didn't have it tonight. There was something there. He just seemed disinterested at times. And we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe he'll shake this off. Maybe the turnover was bothering him. I don't know what it was, but he didn't get a lot of touches early, and he just didn't seem to be as engaged as I thought he would be.
I think some of it was also I do think we should give some credit to the Kentucky side here. I thought Kentucky was better defensively than they've been in the past this season. Now, we can throw out like the last 8 minutes because nobody on either team got any stops in the last 8 minutes, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that there were like 6 guys on the floor that could go get a bucket anytime that they want. Like RJ Davis's bag, like he can go. He has every shot that you need. He has every finish that you need. He has every move that you need. Like, he is a certified scorer. And I think a lot of that in the second half was just, we're going to, like, especially down the stretches, we're going to put Trey Mitchell on a ball screen, whoever Trey Mitchell is guarding, put him on a ball screen with RJ Davis and let RJ Davis go. So I think that was part of why you didn't see him down the stretch. But look, I think Aaron Bradshaw might be better defensively than we gave him credit, certainly than I gave him credit for. I think that's kind of where I stand on this. And Jeff and I have talked about this, and I kind of want your opinion on it too, RC. I think that with Bradshaw back, it raises the floor of what Kentucky can be defensively. And to me, the biggest concern with this Kentucky team is previously I didn't think that they could win games if they weren't going to have a great night offensively. And I think that with Bradshaw and with Onyesu, who had 3 blocks and was really impactful in the 9 minutes that he played, I think that this makes them that much more dangerous because I think that they can win games now when they're not, when they don't have those nights where Dillingham has 30 or Reed Sheppard goes for 25.
Well, they got rim protection now, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got 40 minutes of rim protection when they get out there. So that's a big thing there. And Bradshaw's probably a little bit better on the offensive end, so he can give you double figures on the offensive end and provide you with rim protection. He moved his feet well, and he gave Armando fits, I think, trying to front him. And when Carolina was trying to be intentional in getting him the ball, even though he got in foul trouble, I thought he did a hell of a job trying to move his feet. So that's a big difference there. When you got a guy on the back end that can erase mistakes, it's a game changer. And now they got those big guys back and they're healthy. Now we got to give them time and these freshmen developing. Like Kentucky's that team we talked about before. They're better. We know they're better. How much better will they be in a month from now? We'll see.
Last thing I got for you, RC. What the hell happened on that last play? For the people that didn't see it, specifically, Jeff, I don't know if you saw this.
I did. I saw it.
They called, North Carolina was down 3. They called a timeout. They drew something up. They had it under their own basket. They put in Elliot Cadeau. He brings it up, and the first thing he does with about 8 seconds left is go to throw a pass to Cormac Ryan, who's running down, I think, to go set a screen for someone, and it hits him in the back, and it's a turnover. What happened there? Who is that on? Was that Elliot Cadeau not knowing who he was supposed to pass to? Was that on Cormac Ryan not knowing he was supposed to catch the ball? Is that on Hubert Davis for throwing 2 guys out there that didn't know what the hell they were going to do in that spot? Where's the blame fall, and what the hell happened?
Listen, it looked like he was drawing up a play that was going to have Cormac Ryan, who inbounded the ball, and then go down and set a screen and get the ball to R.J. Davis. And let's be honest, this Carolina team, in a good way, they play with a ton of freedom. And I think the freshmen just saw Cormac Ryan just open and just blindly just throw him the ball. I mean, it obviously wasn't a play because the play was R.J. Davis nearly got it and saved it. He was coming up to get the ball. They definitely were putting the ball in R.J. Davis' hand. I think they were trying to screen whatever to get his matchup, and the freshman made a freshman mistake. You can't crucify him for it. I mean, the kid's been great all year, but he had a freshman moment right there, and it cost him in a really competitive game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of where I landed on that as well. All right, let's move on because there was a lot of other basketball that we got to get to today. Goodman, I'm going to go to you on this. Michigan State beat Baylor by 24. Creighton beat Alabama in a thriller. Houston beat Texas A&M. Memphis beat Clemson. Ohio State beat UCLA. Texas beat LSU with Dylan Disu coming back. What was the next biggest storyline in college basketball on this Saturday?
I mean, the Sparty's back, right? Tom Izzo's back. Like, you had him fired. You had his career over. You were talking about how this was the end of the Tom Izzo era in Michigan State. You were ready to put him out to pasture, Rob Dauster.
You're joking, but you actually said last night that Mark Few, the end of the Gonzaga era is over. So there's a bunch of people in the chat right now. They're like, is Goodman going to say that the end of the Michigan State era is over right now? Is Tom Izzo trying to retire?
I didn't listen to clarify, RC, while I have you on here. I never said the Mark Few era is over. What I said was, is Gonzaga?
You put him on the hot seat, RC.
Are they going to be what Gonzaga has been talent-wise ever again, which is the Jalen Suggs and the Chet Holmgrens and those guys? I don't know if that's ever going to be the case. We'll see. But that's valid. Trust me. I feel pretty good about saying that, okay? As far as Michigan State is concerned, like, listen, we've been waiting for this. We've been waiting for this. Like, I said it last night, Rob. Remember, we talked about the lines in these games, and I said, like, this one scares the shit out of me because the other thing with Baylor was, who had they really beaten? Who had they really beaten that you looked at and you were like, okay, they beat Auburn. Yeah, good win, but like Auburn's not great. And they beat him the first game of the year, and that was a real close game, if you remember, that they could have lost in Sioux Falls. But it's not like Baylor was super tested to this point with really tough games. And Michigan State, listen, Tom Izzo does some pretty good work with his back against the wall here and getting his kids motivated. They played, they came out, and they smacked Baylor right from the outset. It was, a bunch of kids that had heard, how bad they've been. Now, you should have heard that even earlier in the year. But again, I think it was a combination of things. Lined up that, again, Michigan State was hungry. Baylor hadn't really been tested yet in Detroit, and exactly what the doctor ordered for Spartans fans.
Yep. RC, what happened with Michigan State? Like, how did they get this going? Was it just they finally saw some threes go down early and they were able to get hot?
Yeah, they made shots today. I'm not going to say they're back yet, but this is what we thought we'd see from a team that was preseason fourth team in the country. So they just played like the preseason fourth team in the country today. And before I say they're officially back, I want to see if they can pull out wins when they're not shooting 60% from the floor and 60% from three, because that's not what they're going to do all year long. So Tyson Walker was just, the first half was just lights out. The backcourt, the guard play for Michigan State, A.J. Hogarth and these guys, Atkins, they couldn't have played any better to start the game. So when they're not making shots like this and they pull out these caliber wins, then I can say they're back. But I'm not ready to say that yet. They just play like the team Just like we thought Purdue probably played at their A game, I think we saw Michigan play their A game, and that's something we hadn't seen all year.
That was better than their A game. There's got to be something then like it was their A++. It was their A+ with extra credit on the final exam game is what we got.
But it's
right
why
there.
we had fourth in the country, you know.
Yeah, and they needed it badly too.
Yeah,
they were
did.
4-5 coming into this game, and their only win over a team that was top 300 on KenPom was against Butler. And I don't know if any of us are fully buying Butler. I think Butler's good. I don't know if we're fully buying Butler as anything more than just like pretty good. And this is what Michigan State has left in their non-conference: Oakland, Stony Brook, Indiana State. Indiana State's sneaky good, but that's not something where it's going to really pop off the page if they get a win like that. So they really, really, really needed this win. I will say
they guarded. Rob, they guarded. That's what they did too. Like they made shots, RC. You're right,
but they've been guarding all season long. They're a top 10 defensive team. Like their issue hasn't been on that end of the floor. The issue that they've had has been they're not making threes. They don't look like they have any confidence. They don't look like they have any continuity. They don't quite know what to do with their 5 spot yet. They really haven't figured that out. Jaden Akins hasn't really gotten things going yet. AJ Hoggard has not played great so far this season. Hoggard had 14 to 5 assists today. Tyson Walker was his usual unbelievable self. He's been awesome this season. And the guys off the bench like Trey Holloman, Jeremy Fears, Cohen Carr had some ridiculous dunks. I think the best thing about this win for Michigan State is that their next 3 games are very winnable. And then they get into Big Ten play, and they start out with Penn State and Northwestern. Like they can reel off 5 in a row here without really having to challenge themselves all that much. And I think that's exactly what they need. Because my read on this was it was as much confidence, especially offensively, as anything else. So I think that this is they needed a performance like this to kind of exercise some demons. And now they're able to kind of build on that and get a little continuity by winning a couple of other games here. I got another one for you. Okay, so go ahead, RC.
No, I was going to say this. Let's be honest. They needed this win because I don't know if any of us are sure how good the Big Ten is going to be and how many – this isn't the same Big Ten as it was a year ago. So they're not going to have as many games like this and opportunities like this from a resume standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
hey, Rob,
for sure. Like they needed this win.
I guess I'm no longer allowed to call it the Little 10 after today, supposedly. Because of what they did today. I mean, look at it. Purdue beats Arizona. Ohio State beats UCLA. Michigan State beats Baylor. Indiana fights with Kansas. So I can't call it the Little 10 today. Can't do it.
That's where Indiana is right now as a basketball program. Michigan State lands this incredible win. Purdue lands this incredible win. Ohio State beats a blue blood. And Indiana has a really, really impressive moral victory where they still lost after being up by 13 points.
You got to take what you can get right now.
You got it. You got it, man. All right, listen. I want to ask you guys this question, okay? So if you look on KenPom right now, all right, the top 4 teams are really kind of congested. And the gap between the number 4 team in America and the number 5 team in America is as big as the gap between the number 5 team in America and the number 25 team in America, which is Clemson. So my question to you, we've talked about 3 of the top 4 teams, right? We talked about UConn last night. We talked about Arizona today. We talked about Purdue today. Houston is the other team in that top 4. They're number 1 in the country. They are one of 4 undefeated teams left in college basketball right now. They finally landed a win over a team that I think is one that we can call like a top 25-ish kind of team. And even that, Texas A&M is currently sitting here at 7-4. So Houston, 70. Texas A&M, 66. RC, how seriously do we need to sit here and have a conversation about it? Look, we called Purdue and Arizona the 2 best teams in America. How close in your mind is Houston to that conversation and to that same level?
I think it's Houston and it's Marquette that I'd add with those other 3. And I don't even have a concern because I know what Houston is and what they represent. But I would like to see them play against more teams, and I would like to see them play like how would today's game have turned out if Tyrese Radford was there? Like, would that have been, how much closer would this have been? Because I think they were in total control. It looked like it was going to be a blowout, and they were going to run away with it like A&M didn't belong, and then they stormed back.
It was a blowout. They were up 21 with like 12 minutes to go. And then Wade Taylor went.
And then next thing you know, Wade Taylor went nuts and just showed you he's that dude. And again, and with the healthy Radford, I want to know what's the ceiling for this A&M team. And the only question that I have right now with Houston, I just want to see them against some other Tier 1 teams and playing the Purdues or playing the Marquettes or playing the UConns, because that's where we think they belong.
Yeah, they get Kansas.
You're not going to see it for a while, RC. You're not going to see it for a while.
I'll roll through it right here, Goodman. They get Kansas in the fog on February 3rd. They get Baylor at Baylor on February 24th. And they get Kansas at home on March 9th, the last day of the regular season. Those are the three biggest games. And depending on where you guys have Oklahoma slotted, they play Oklahoma on the road on March 2nd. So throughout the month of January, they're not going to get one of these like great marquee games, depending on how you feel about BYU, who BYU is number 5 on KenPom. And if there's anything that makes me say like it's very hard to take KenPom numbers seriously right now at this point in time, it's BYU at number 5 in the country. Goodman.
I think Houston belongs in there, but I know those other teams belong there. I know they're different, and I think Houston's right there. But I need to see them against one of those teams. We've seen those teams against each other. I need to see Houston against even the teams that we think are a tier below that, like Kansas and some of these other teams. We need to see them against those teams before we can really be sure that they're as good as we think they are.
Yep. All right, Goodman. Speaking,
they lost Terrence Arsenault for the season today too, who isn't a starter, but he's a key piece of their depth.
Yes,
and somebody that was only going to get better. Somebody whose ceiling is very high, and was only going to get better over the course of the year. So that's going to hurt them too. I like Houston a lot, but again, I'm not putting them in that top class, or they're clearly in the next tier for me right now.
I didn't realize that Arsenault did his Achilles. Oh man, that's brutal.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, that sucks. All right. One other team that I do think is close to that tier 1 conversation that I cannot make any sense of, right? Every time I think I'm ready to write them off, they do something like beat Alabama. Every time I think I'm ready to put them into the conversation of national title contenders, they do things like get smacked around by UNLV or get smacked around by Colorado State. And that is the Creighton Blue Jays. They won today 85-82 against Alabama. They won on a night when Alabama was 4 for 22 from 3. RC, what do you make of Creighton? Do you trust them at all? Are you at a place where you feel like you can buy into them? Are they near that Marquette UConn tier in the Big East? Like, give me all of your Creighton Blue Jay takes, sir.
Listen, let's be fair to them. We saw them against the pressure, right? They at least handled the pressure. So we saw the athleticism and the pressure. And Kalkbrenner went out. And they struggled for a second when he went out. And Kalkbrenner, protects the paint, and his ability came back in. I think obviously his presence was the reason they came back. They won the game. But I thought Alabama decided they just attack the paint. I mean, it was dunk. It was a layup. It looked like a warm-up drill. I mean, they just scored in paint that well to keep them in the game. But how do you not count them out? Because they got too many guys that can score. And when Kalkbrenner is there, he's a difference maker. They're just really efficient on the offensive end. That was a hell of a game and a hell of a win. I don't know if we've had a better day of college basketball than we had today. There was so many great games. I mean, that Kentucky-Carolina, this one's right there. I thought the Memphis-Clemson game was big time. There was Indiana, Kentucky. I mean, there was all day long. You didn't even want to get up and run to go to the bathroom because you was going to miss something with so many good games. But no, to your point, I think I've never had Creighton in that top, and like we talked about those 4 or 5 teams. The question is, are they in that second tier of teams? And I'm going to say yes because I think they got a guy that can get stops.
Yeah, here's my biggest concern with them is that we know what they are defensively when Kalkbrenner's around. Like it was we can sit there and we can say the impact that he has. I don't think there is a better way to visualize the impact that he has than to take him out of a game against a team like Alabama, whose entire philosophy is shoot threes or get dunks. And you see how many dunks they get when you don't have that big 7'2" monster in there at the rim. So you saw the impact of what he could be defensively today. I think Alabama had something like 60 points in the paint, which is an insane number in the college basketball game. My concern with them is that I don't know, and I've said this before, and Creighton fans push back on me on this, and I'm curious what both of you guys' opinion on this is. I don't know if they have enough ability to be able to create offense against the team that takes them out of the stuff that they can scheme, right? Like Greg McDermott's going to be able to draw up a whole bunch of open threes and a whole bunch of pin downs and a whole bunch of guys that ways they can throw a lob to Kalkbrenner coming off of a dribble handoff. Like he's going to be able to create a bunch of shots out of just the shit that he draws up, right? But what happens when that doesn't work? What happens when you're able to kind of take that away and you have a night where the threes aren't going down? I don't know if I trust Trey Alexander to be able to create one-on-one against good defenses. I don't know if I trust Baylor Shireman to do it. I don't know if I trust Stephen Ashworth to do it. But, like, then you watch him today and, like, Trey Alexander's getting into the paint and hitting these fadeaway jumpers nonstop. And Baylor Shireman is doing these, like, wrong-footed.
But it's Alabama's defense. Wait.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's
like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
defense. Right.
Okay,
right.
So you agree with
like,
me?
I do. I don't put a lot of stock in right now Alabama's defense. So I think that was a perfect matchup for Creighton to get healthy. And to be honest, I wasn't that impressed with that win. Like at home after the UNLV loss, I expected Creighton to take it to Alabama. Like I don't think Alabama's that good yet, and I'm not even sure Alabama's going to be that good this year. And I think Nate Oates is a terrific coach. But when Mark Sears is clearly your best player, like he's a nice player. But again, I just think their talent level is taking a major step backward this year.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Alabama, RC, is that
the one thing I'd say about Creighton, though, where I'd say that they're worrying about the pressure is because all they do is that you don't have to worry about ball screens. Where they don't have to scheme is they can just flash Kalkbrenner and you cut off of him. He get in DHOs. Mm-hmm. So you're eliminating having to deal with the pressure. You just pop him up, let him catch it. His DHOs, it's the same thing as a ball screen. And then now, how are you going to play it? Because you got to worry about the lob, which you saw today, or the guards getting downhill. So just popping him up and putting him in DHOs eliminates the fact that you got to worry about they don't need to have a traditional point guard to, let's say, break you down and make plays. Because at that point, you're just turning the corner and using your size and your skill set to get downhill. So that part of it is where I think schematically they're going to run great stuff, but you don't have to have great stuff at that point because you're just going to pop your big and you got 3 or 4 perimeter guys. I can just say, hey, dribble handoff here, you cut, I pass, backdoor cut, whatever, and throw lobs. So I think they got enough offensive power to do that, and that doesn't matter who you're playing against because now that's the one thing you're going to do. Now, can you do that for 40 minutes? No, but you can scheme. They got perimeter shooting. They got enough guys that can make plays.
Yeah, maybe the big thing is that Creighton just should never, ever play anybody from the Mountain West ever again. That San Diego State game in the Elite Eight last year didn't go that well for him. The Colorado State game didn't go that well for him. The UNLV game didn't go that well for him. Stick to teams from the Big East, all right? Stick to teams from the Big East. It was pretty crazy. Our producer Trevor has the image up there right now. Mark Sears put up a half-court shot and that is the shot right there. That ball did not go in. That ball rimmed out. I don't know how that ball did not go in, but that's a painful one. That's got to be tough if you are an Alabama fan or you had the Alabama money line in this game. All right, I do want to – you mentioned this, RC, Memphis and Clemson. Quietly, we're sitting at a place right now where Memphis has these wins stockpiled. They beat Missouri on the road. They beat Michigan on a neutral. They beat Arkansas on a neutral. They beat VCU on the road. They beat Texas A&M on the road. They beat Clemson at home, which is the only one of those games that actually came in their own building. And, Goodman, you'll appreciate this, they beat Jackson State, who is the best 0-5 team in the country, according to Missouri head coach Dennis Gates. I think that they have a guy that we need to have a serious conversation about in the All-American category when it comes to David Jones, who's averaging 21. He's averaging 24 over his last 4 games. What do you – I know that you like to troll John Martin about Memphis quite a bit, but where do you stand on, like, how good this team is at this point? And they still haven't gotten Naquan Tomlin yet, who was actually in the stands today. And they couldn't – it was very weird seeing him in the stands, and he couldn't, like, be a part of the team yet, but he was a part of the team because he's committed and he's going to go there. So that was a little bit awkward.
He's still getting over an injury, by the way, that people don't probably know about, but he's still getting over an ankle injury. So, even when he's eligible to play, we'll see, whether he can play right away. But listen, I remember when we were driving the Champions Classic that night, the next day we drove from New York down south and we got to Richmond, Virginia. And I didn't realize Memphis was playing at VCU. We tried to get further than that. We couldn't because of the traffic in D.C. So we pull over. We're in the hotel room, and I'm watching the end of that game against VCU. And it's down the street from me, basically. And they probably should have lost that game. And I'm thinking to myself, they lose this game, they're in a little bit of trouble here going into the next 2, right? I mean, they got a couple tough games coming up. They win that one in overtime. And then obviously they get a win against a Texas A&M team on the road that nobody expected. And now they get this one against an undefeated Clemson team that's going to be pretty good the rest of the season. They're not going to go through the tailspin they did last year, I don't think. They're older. But Memphis is old. Like, this is what Penny needed to figure out, and I think he did now. Like, get old, stay old. And Slick Rick was maybe the best hire of the offseason. Rick Stansbury. I mean that sincerely. He might have been the best hire of the offseason because he helped bring in Quinterly, he helped bring in David Jones, and he just got Tomlin in. Like, Slick Rick, people laugh at me when I say it, a top 5 recruiter, period. Rick Stansbury. He is. Listen, you guys can smile all you want. You can laugh, but I'm telling you, that dude.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't.
RC, when you were coaching, and you probably didn't go against Slick Rick much, but you heard about him. You heard the stories.
Listen, let's be clear. Certain guys, if I walked in and saw certain guys there, I was like, man, we ain't getting right. And I go. Right. And so I'm laughing because of that, not laughing at what you're saying.
Yeah. The combination of
they're
Rick
damn
Stansbury,
good.
Right. That combination of Stansbury and Penny is working right now. And he's got older dudes, and David Jones has been, like you said, Rob, I mean, under the radar, an All-American candidate. Quinterly had a good game today. He's been good for the most part this year. And again, Tomlin coming in is like your 3rd or 4th option. Man, when he gets healthy, like, this is a team that is going to be hard for FAU to beat in that league.
I agree. Who's the best team in that league in the American, RC? FAU or Memphis?
I'm still going to say FAU for now. I do. I think I told you, I'm just a big fan of those guys and how they play. I can't go against that, their experience. But the one thing I will say is this team is different than what Penny's had, because last year's team was good defensively, and they just relied on Kendrick Davis, and it was like whenever he scored, we just kind of crossed our fingers with everybody else. Now David Jones is a certified bucket. He's put so much pressure on you, and Quinterly is playing as good as any guard in the league. I think he's been really good, having watched the tape and watched him play a couple of times. He's just doing a lot of different things for those guys, creating for himself. They got Caleb Love from the bench. They got so many different guys stepping up. But the 2 consistent guys is Jones and Quinterly, scoring at a high clip, and they're defending their tails off, and their length is bothering people.
Yeah, I agree. So, Goodman, this is where we got to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It is the place you can store your own predictions forever, and by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than your friends. So go download the Vaulted app, that's VLTED, to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without any entry fee. Goodman, I think that Javon Quinterly is probably the best point guard in the American. I think you look at the length and athleticism that this Memphis team has, and it can give people problems. I think you look at David Jones and you can say that this is a guy that is going to be able to get buckets against anybody in college basketball at this point. He's been so efficient this year. I think the size is an issue. I think that the toughness is an issue. I think the age is an issue. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Here's my challenge to you, Goodman. FAU is going to win the American. FAU is going to cut down the nets as the American Athletic Conference champions.
I ain't going against my boys from Boca. I ain't going against them because those dudes, again, they went to the Final Four. I believe in them. I just believe in them because they're winners now. Like there's something about that, right? When you win like that it comes down. I saw it today with my own eyes with Kansas, Indiana, right? Like at the end of the day, I was never worried. I just always felt like, you know what, if this game gets tight, and it will at some point, Kansas going to find a way. Like FAU to me against Memphis is kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Anything to say about Clemson? I think that they are very, very good, and that they went on the road to another really good team, and they lost by one possession.
A couple of teams tonight. They fell from the ranks of the undefeated. There's no shame in going to this Memphis team that we all think is damn good. We're all sitting here. We know Memphis will be there when it matters. They're a damn good team. They got length. They're going to add another player that's going to be potentially a starter for them. If I had to say I'm concerned with Clemson is I got to figure out what the hell's going on with Chase Hunter. He just doesn't seem to be himself. I think he has to figure that out and get back to playing in a way. I think the adjustment of Joe Girard coming in there and he's having to figure out playing with and without the ball as much. He dominates the ball, so I don't quite understand that yet. He's got to figure that out. When they get Jack Clark back, they get Alec Hemingway back, and his team is complete and healthy. I think the Clemson is damn good, and I have no concerns about them at all.
Yeah, PJ Hall's tough as hell, man. He had like 3 or 4 blocks today. It was like, where the hell did that come from? I like that dude. Now I can see why T.O. Yeah, he can shoot. Look, do me a favor, RC. Never mention Chauncey Wiggins when you're around T.O. because he will start rambling for 15 minutes about this dude is a difference maker. This is how he's going to end up making sure that we win the ACC. This is what we got to do. Blah, blah, blah. Please do not mention that in front of Terrence Oglesby. There's 2 other games I want to get to, and we can be quick about this. The first one is Ohio State beating UCLA. I don't think this says too much about Ohio State except for the fact that Chris Holtmann punched a clipboard, broke the clipboard, cut his hand, and still stayed in the game. Chris Holtmann, certified gamer. He plays through cut hands from breaking clipboards with his own hand. My other question is, I want to talk about UCLA really quick because they are sitting here at 5-4 right now. They have not beaten anybody that is a top 250 team on KenPom. Here are their wins so far. They beat St. Francis, Pennsylvania. They beat Lafayette. They beat Long Island. They beat Chaminade, and they beat UC Riverside by 1 at home in the game where they needed a bucket at the end to be able to win it. They've lost to Marquette, Gonzaga, Villanova, and now Ohio State. But all of those losses have been single-digit losses. 3 of them were basically one-possession games, and I do believe in 3 of them they held the lead in the second half. So it's not like this UCLA team, RC, is all that far off from being really good, but also like they haven't actually accomplished anything yet this season, and they don't have any more big non-conference games left on their resume. What should we make of the Bruins? Do you have any takes on them?
I'll say this. I don't think the Bruins are as bad as their record, and I don't think that Ohio State is as good as their record is right now. Now, credit to those guys. They're winning. But the same thing you're questioning, I wonder – I don't know how good this Ohio State team is yet. They're winning, and it's something to be said. They got – I'm not writing them off saying that they're bad. I think they can be right there. I just don't know how good they are because they don't have the resume, like you just said, that UCLA has. So when we start wanting to place them in that echelon or say, hey, this is a tournament team, their resume at this point hadn't said so. So we're going to have to see, when they get through the Big Ten, get in the conference play and play a little bit, play a better conference schedule. We'll see about them. But I don't know if you look at their record, they're 9-2, and you would think, hey, this team are they a fringe top 25 team? I'm not ready to say that. And I think the Bruins are better than people think. You look at their record, they 5-4, they lost a lot. They've been right there. like I said, single-digit losses. I think they'll get in the Pac-12. They'll be in the top 4 of the Pac-12. We'll see what this team look like in the end.
Goodman is top 4 in the Pac-12 enough to get UCLA an NCAA tournament bid?
Maybe first 4, like a few years ago. They got nothing on the resume, though. They got nothing,
and they gotta be. And their wins, Jeff, they gotta pull an upset over a Arizona or something like that. Yeah, it's got to be one of those to get in it when they get in the conference.
Yeah, that's the hard part right now. You're looking at the league and you're like, okay, USC hasn't been that good, right? Colorado's been pretty good, so what else is there in the league other than Arizona that's going to make a difference? And I just don't think this UCLA team, I said it before the season, like so many international guys, so many unknown quantities, not just foreign kids, but also the returning guys. And if Adem Bona is your best player, and I love him, but he can't score. You can't throw it to Adem Bona. So, they're just – it's a weird mix for Mick Cronin. I just thought that.
They got freshman guards too. It's not a great combination. It just it's one of those ones where I was very curious to see how this experiment would work, because I do think that going and getting these 19-year-old future pros that are making the decision, do I want to be like on Real Madrid's B team or do I want to come play in college? That's a very interesting way to try to build a roster and try to supplement some of the talent on your team, but it's not going to work if you got to rely on just those guys. The last team I want to ask you guys about, Texas. They beat LSU 96-85. They haven't really done anything this year. They don't have a win over a top 100 opponent. They got smacked around a little bit by UConn, who didn't have their entire team when they played. And they got smacked around a lot by Marquette on the road. But they just got Dylan Disu back. He played his first game since last year's NCAA tournament and finished with 17 points, 9 boards, and 4 assists. Goodman, does this change the way that you look at this Texas team getting him available? I mean, the top of the Big 12 is very, very, very good, as we always know, and he is a valuable piece.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but he's not a 3-man last I checked. He's not a wing who can shoot the ball. Like Dylan Disu can step out a little bit more than Caden Shedrick, but I'm not sure how well those two work together at the 4 and the 5. I want to see that with my own eyes. But ultimately, again, Disu, Dylan Mitchell, Caden Shedrick, like none of them can really stretch it too much, and none of them can guard threes. I mean, Dylan Mitchell maybe can guard some threes, but he doesn't shoot it well enough to be able to play the three. So I don't know. I don't trust this Texas team enough to make any real noise this year. I think they're going to be up and down. They'll win some games that you're like, wow, all right, if A. Smith is making shots and Tyrese Hunter's making shots, they can beat some teams, but I don't think they're going to be a factor when it comes to like nationally talking about teams that have a chance to do something, come March.
RC?
I agree. I think they'll be, they'll make some noise. They'll win games, but they're not as talented. I don't see them going as far as last year's team. They're not as talented as they were a year ago.
Yeah, the pieces just don't fit as well. You have 2 guards that are kind of undersized. You don't have all that much shooting, and I think you can make the argument that their best lineup is 2 undersized guards with Dylan Mitchell, Caden Shedrick, and Dylan Disu, and that's just like, I don't know how that works. I don't know how you get your 5 best players on the floor. All right. Anything else to add, guys? Anything you want to hit on before we get to toast of the night? Anybody that we missed? Goodman, anything that you want to elaborate on from your journeys in Indiana? I'm just very glad. I saw the video that you posted with Talia. I saw how you guys were recording that. I saw that you were staring at the phone instead of worrying about driving on the road that you were on. So I'm very happy to report that you've made it through your journeys.
Do you want to hear?
Indiana.
Wait. Would you like to hear my mom's text to both me and Talia? I'm going to read you the group text. All right, I'm going to read you the group text. Who the hell is driving and who is filming in the car? So I said, we got someone to film. So she said, who's driving the car? I said, my chauffeur. She says, are you sure? I said, and then Talia jumped in. Yeah, we hired a guy for the day. How is he driving and filming? I said, not very well. Said, I don't like how it looks. Please be careful. That was it.
That was my exact reaction when I saw that video too. I was like, oh God, please do not get in an accident. The last thing we need is Goodman driving into a parked truck because he's sitting there trying to record.
We killed it. I mean, think about this. We waited till the end of the game. There were a lot of people, I'm not going to mention the media members or the NBA scouts, who left before the end of that game. All right. We waited till the very end. We used my jet quick speed to get to the car. Talia was trailing way far behind to get in the car. And then we made it into the arena in Indy with like 20 minutes to spare. So listen, that's the good of today. The bad that came of today, Rob, is what I'm going to have to buy. And I have a video. I didn't send it to you of me and Robbie Hummel post game because Arizona lost, my alma mater lost to Hummel's alma mater. I have to buy a Robbie Hummel jersey. God knows where I'm going to find one of these. I don't think they exist anywhere other than Robbie's closet.
Hey, we can go back to that store that tried to sell you one that for $250.
I know. I could go there.
hey, get that golf shirt we saw. He's probably playing enough golf. Just get that golf outfit we saw.
Yeah. That would be hilarious if what you did was you got a golf shirt that just said Hummel on the back and said, "This is your new jersey now." You don't play basketball.
That is pretty good. I might do that instead. But I have to walk around for an entire day with this Hummel jersey. I don't know whether to save it for the Final Four. I'll probably just wear it in Charleston for the day. I'll try to.
No, do it one day. It'll be fun if you do it one day at the Final Four. Save it for the Final Four because everyone can laugh about it. And it's Hummel.
How did Hummel do on Peacock? How was he today?
He was. I mean.
It was good. It was a good game.
You know what? I don't want everyone kisses his ass too much. He was fucking terrible. He sucked. We got to get him a new job. He should just
listen. A year ago
today, it was a good game. He couldn't mess it up. It was a good game. I mean, It was the best game. It was one of the best games of the day.
A year ago today, he was doing a game with a record-setting pizza eating contest at Tulsa. So he's come a long way in a year. He's come a long way.
Well, it's nice to have him at an organization that appreciates what he can do on the mic. All right, toast of the night. I'm tired of saying nice things about Robbie Hummel. We say too many nice things about Robbie Hummel on this podcast. We got to start saying some mean things. His ego's getting a little out of control. We got to take him down a peg or two. All right, toast of the night, Randolph. We're going to you first.
Hey, I'm gonna go to Juwan Howard, man. Coming back from his heart surgery, first night on the bench, man, and a lot of great games today. But when you talk about someone's health, so cheers to Juwan Howard for getting back, getting healthy.
Cheers, Juwan. Good to see you back. Goodman, what do you got?
Cheers to Juwan. Hey, you know who won in double overtime today, Rob? You want to guess?
Who won in double overtime today?
Do you know who's finally back over 500? The St. Mary's Gales, baby. While Gonzaga lost last, don't count out Randy Bennett and the Gales from winning the WCC. You counted him out. You took him out of the equation for the NCAA tournament picture, just like you had Izzo into early retirement. But St. Mary's is still alive and kicking, baby. They beat UNLV. They beat him in double overtime. And you are going to see Alex Dukas, and I hope you see him against UConn again, with a healthy back, and he's going to send your UConn Huskies out this time.
I will drink to that. I love the St. Mary's dude. I love the guys on that team. I'm all in on St. Mary's. I want them in so bad. The funniest thing in the world, Goodman, would be if St. Mary's gets in as let's just say a 9 seed and UConn's a 1 and they play in the second round and Alex Dukas goes for 38 and they beat UConn in the second round of the NCAA tournament. That would be that would suck for me, but I think it would be worth it for the content alone because that would be incredible. We would have to let him be the host. He would have to take over the show. It would be his show. I would be gone. Field of 68 would be done after that.
His teasers would be better than yours.
Yeah, they would. I have 2 toasts that I'm going to go with. The first one is Kevin Cross from Tulane.
Yeah. Became
just the second player since 1984 the first season that assists were actually counted as a stat in college basketball. The second player to have back-to-back games with a triple-double where he scored at least 20 points. He had 20 points, 11 boards, and 10 assists in Tulane's win. I want to see if you guys can guess it. All right? I want to see if you guys can guess. There is one other player in the history of college basketball to have a 20, 10, and 10 triple-double in back-to-back games.
No.
Do you want a hint?
No.
You want a hint?
Sure. Yeah.
He is a head coach right now. You want another hint?
Coach.
He's the head coach of a team that we talked about at length tonight.
Tonight? Ooh,
Tonight. The team that he coaches beat Penny. Yeah, Penny was the only other guy in the history of college basketball to do it. Yeah. Kevin McCullough had back-to-back triple-doubles in a game this year. They weren't back-to-back 20-point triple-doubles. That's the difference right there. So shout out to Kevin Cross. You and Penny Hardaway are in NCAA history. Hell of a performance. That's a really impressive thing to do. All right, my second toast of the night is going out to the Blue Demons of Central Connecticut State University, who went on the road to UMass Lowell and ended the NCAA Division I high 20-game home winning streak that UMass Lowell had. Goodman, I'm shocked. I'm disappointed. I'm flabbergasted. You decided to leave Boston on the week when Central Connecticut was going up to UMass Lowell, which is in your backyard, and ending
40 minutes.
The longest home winning streak in Division I. Are you ashamed of yourself?
No, we got to find out when that streak started, because I was at a game at UMass Lowell last year, actually about this time, maybe actually less than a year ago. So I think I might have started that winning. I might have been, honestly, the good luck charm for that winning streak. And because I'm not there, that's why Pat Duquette. But that's a good win. That's a good win for Central. UMass Lowell's really good this year. Really good.
They are good. They are good.
Yeah. Central's good too, man. Give CCSU some credit. The last game that they lost was at home was New Hampshire on March 1st of 2022. So if you were there for the game on Monday, November 7th, 2022 against Fisher College, where UMass Lowell won 108-43, then you were there for the start of this home court winning streak.
Good research, Rob. Good research. I was not there.
Were you there? Were you there?
No.
Because you're not a grinder. I remember when I remember the days when you used to be a grinder here.
I've got a doubleheader tomorrow, Rob. I don't know what you're talking about. I got a doubleheader to get to tomorrow.
What is that?
Colgate, Illinois, followed by the Illinois-Missouri women's game.
Thrilling. My my doubleheader will be taking my daughter to a 4-year-old's birthday party and then going and visiting my grandmother. I think my day is going to be a little bit better than yours.
Get to see Matt Langle and Terrence Shannon and Daddy Brad.
I get sheet cake and my grandmother's cookies.
You do not need either of those. You do not need either of those.
Double desserts, baby. Double desserts.
I'm getting grandma's number right now from Gabrielle, and I'm going to text Grammy and no cookies for Rob. Not this year. Rob has got to go on a big diet now.
No, Rob does.
He might as well wait to New Year's. You might as well get him through New Year's now.
That's what I was about to say. Diet starts January 1st, baby. Let's go. Listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. For those wondering, that is a signed Robbie Hummel jersey right there that Jeff Goodman is going to be wearing at the Final Four this season. So for Randolph Childress, for Jeff Goodman, and for our producer, Trevor Valise, who absolutely crushed it tonight, started the show early, handled the tweets himself, handled the posts himself, handled the clips himself, handled the entire show himself. Shout out to him. He got the job done. Illinois fan. So, Goodman, you better get some pictures. You better get him some merch when you're there.
Tomorrow night, where Illinois
and take him out to dinner, man. Take Trevor out to dinner, Trevor, wherever you want to go.
Give me a good spot for tomorrow night for a big-time dinner in Champaign. I need something.
Champagne on ice, baby.